Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Silent Trigger. This movie tells the story of a former Special Forces soldier who now works as a heavily armed assassin sent on a mission from a secret agency. He is assigned to kill a target from an abandoned skyscraper. However, memories and moral dilemmas surface in his mind when a former spotter from his past reappears in front of him. Will he be able to complete his mission? Who is the former spotter and does it have anything to do with his past? Let's find out in Silent Trigger. Silent Trigger begins by showing a flashback when Waxman, who is a sniper, manages to kill his target from a distance. The scene then switches to the present when Waxman suddenly wakes up from his sleep when he hears the phone ringing. Waxman is no longer serving in the Special Forces and becomes a hitman employed by a secret agency. Waxman let his phone ring a few times, while he recalled an incident several years ago, in which he was assigned to assassinate a female politician. At that time, he was accompanied by a woman named Clegg who served as a spotter to spy on the target before Waxman killed him. This mission is Clegg's first task as a spotter who accompanies a sniper to kill her target. However, when Waxman was ordered to shoot because he was in the right position, he immediately became confused because the target was holding a baby. Waxman then chose not to shoot his target, despite being urged by Clegg and their superiors. Because Waxman still hesitated to shoot, a helicopter carrying armed troops finally arrived there because they already knew the location of Waxman and Clegg, who had failed to carry out their mission. Waxman then told Clegg to head to the pickup point first to distract them. They defeat the attacking force, including the machine gun-equipped helicopter, whose pilot and co-pilot are shot through the canopy. When Clegg arrived at the pickup point, she rushed to report to her superior that Waxman had died because there was a huge explosion at their hiding location before she left there. However, not long after, Clegg was surprised by the appearance of Waxman there because it turned out that he had survived the explosion. Waxman immediately seized Clegg's radio to send messages to their superiors. He forbade Clegg to use the radio for fear that the enemy would track them down through radio transmissions. Waxman said that there were two possibilities for the failure of their mission. Firstly, because the enemy had managed to track their whereabouts via radio transmission, and secondly, because they had both been framed. Therefore, Waxman also forbade Clegg to use the radio. After packing their things, Waxman and Clegg rushed to the second pickup location with a map. They saw a car parked at the edge of the forest on the way. Without thinking, Waxman rushed to beat the man who was the car driver and his partner and then stole the car and continued the journey. After a long journey, Waxman and Clegg entered an arid area, where armed men were seen hijacking a passing vehicle. They did not even hesitate to brutally kill civilians who happened to be crossing the area. Waxman then asked Clegg to turn around and take another route, but they were quickly caught by the armed gang, who immediately stopped their car. Waxman had no other choice but to slaughter them all for getting in his way. With his very great fighting ability, Waxman can easily overthrow the hijackers. He even killed those who tried to escape with one deadly shot from a distance, proving that he is a very good marksman. Waxman and Clegg then continued their journey, where they were then caught up in the riots that occurred in a city. They rushed to find a safe hiding place. In their escape, Waxman tries to calm Clegg, who is frustrated because she is trapped in an endlessly dangerous situation. Waxman assures Clegg that she will survive if she continues to be by his side. However, when Waxman goes outside to check things out, Clegg secretly uses the radio to ask their superior for help. Because they don't want the failure of their mission to be exposed, their superior then orders Clegg to kill Waxman. At the same time, Waxman returns to their hideout and learns about the order. He hurried away from Clegg and they never saw each other again. Years later, Waxman is still working as a hitman for the secret agency. This time, Waxman gets a mission to kill another target. The scene then switches and shows the atmosphere in an unfinished skyscraper. Because the building is still under construction, the developer only assigned 2 male security guards, namely senior security named O'Hara and new personnel named Klein. Even though Klein was the new security guard there, he didn't like O'Hara because he insulted and demeaned him. While the guards are inside the building, Waxman tries to infiltrate it. With his skills and years of experience, it's not that hard for Waxman to get in there and hide in a safe place to work out his plans. Waxman even broke one of the CCTV cameras to distract the guards. Klein noticed the damage, then rushed to check the situation outside the building. Since it was raining heavily that night with lightning, Klein assumed that the CCTV camera was damaged by lightning because it was outside. When Klein was about to return to the building, he was surprised by a woman's appearance in front of the railing. Klein immediately approached the woman and asked her purpose for coming there. The woman turned out to be Clegg, who said that she had been assigned to fix the communication and security systems on the building. Since Klein had not previously been informed of Clegg's arrival, He then reported this to O'Hara first before allowing Clegg to enter. Knowing that Clegg was a woman, O'Hara immediately gave Klein permission to take her into the building. After that, O'Hara escorted Clegg to the top floor using the elevator while seducing her. However, because Clegg is not a random woman, she points a gun at O'Hara and threatens him. O'Hara was instantly motionless and annoyed that Clegg had underestimated him. Hearing this from O'Hara, Klein intended to report Clegg to the police because she had a gun. However, O'Hara stopped him and said he would handle any problems inside the building without involving the police. Meanwhile upstairs, Clegg is surprised by the appearance of Waxman, who immediately covers her mouth. But in reality, Clegg was assigned as a spotter to accompany Waxman in carrying out his mission. Waxman questions why their superior repaired them after what they experienced years ago. However, Clegg just replied casually by saying that she really fits in with anyone and that Waxman is not special to her. In the middle of their conversation, suddenly, O'Hara came back there. But since Clegg had locked the door first, even O'Hara couldn't get in there and then left in annoyance. Waxman and Clegg then began to prepare their respective weapons and equipment and determine the exact location to launch their attack. They then engage in conversation in which they both do not know the identity and face of their superior, even though they have worked for the secret agency for years. After that, Waxman goes to the roof of the building to monitor the location he will use to kill his target, which is expected to cross an overpass that is 2 kilometers from the location of the building. He saw something suspicious in another building, but he chose not to think too much about it. Meanwhile, Klein looked suspicious when the lights on the roof of the building flashed brightly and thought that someone was there. He rushed upstairs to check things out. On the other hand, Clegg noticed that someone was using the elevator and was about to head to the roof of the building. She rushes to take action so Waxman doesn't get caught. When Klein finally got there and was about to open the door leading to the roof, Clegg appeared and interrupted Klein's inspection by saying that she was making sure the lighting system was running normally, thus making several lights in the building turn on. On the other hand, Waxman sets bombs in several places, including in a hidden elevator area. However, at the same time, the elevator was used by Klein to go back down, so Waxman almost fell. Luckily, Clegg arrives just in time to help him and they both attempt to keep up the just business facade, although some romantic appreciation is apparent. After rescuing Waxman, Clegg then goes to the toilet to clean herself up. O'Hara suddenly appears behind her and tries to overpower Clegg. Hearing the commotion in the toilet, Waxman rushed and pointed his gun. However, Waxman becomes helpless when O'Hara threatens Clegg at gunpoint. O'Hara then led Clegg to the elevator and ran the elevator to the lower floors. Waxman tries to catch up with them, but O'Hara makes a fight that forces Waxman to retreat. O'Hara then handcuffs Clegg to a fence and then returns upstairs to hunt down Waxman. However, after they finally met again, Waxman could easily take down O'Hara and beat him to death. After freeing Clegg, Waxman then handcuffed O'Hara to the toilet and told his co-workers that the situation was under control. Waxman notices a puddle of water on the floor in the morning. When he checked inside the toilet, puddles of water flooded the toilet floor and he found O'Hara nowhere. O'Hara, who managed to escape, then rushed to Klein and asked him for help to remove the handcuffs. Unexpectedly, Klein shot O'Hara, killing him. On the other hand, Waxman begins to carry out his mission along with Clegg. The two of them were already in the designated position to kill the target. Not long after, the car driven by the target crossed the overpass, but Waxman again seemed indecisive and gave up his intention to kill his target, even though their target was already in the firing zone. Clegg, who doesn't want failure to repeat itself, then points a gun at Waxman, urging him to immediately kill their target. However, at the same time, a group of armed forces who were in another building fired shots at their target and killed the target. The armed forces also fired shots at Waxman and Clegg, which indicated that they knew their whereabouts and the mission they were carrying out. Waxman rushed to counter their attack without thinking and told Clegg to take cover immediately. With his skills and experience as a formidable sniper, Waxman can easily overthrow the armed forces, even if they are in a quite far away location. After successfully knocking down his enemies, Waxman returns to meet Clegg, who is still pointing a gun at him because he failed to carry out his mission and made the same mistake several years ago. But in fact, Waxman did this on purpose after realizing the presence of several suspicious people last night when he was monitoring the situation on the roof of the building. Waxman tells Clegg that they have both been framed. Before Waxman could explain Clegg further, armed troops were suddenly sent to kill them both. A shootout was inevitable, but Waxman and Clegg managed to beat them all. When they were about to leave the building, suddenly Klein appeared and shot Waxman straight away. Just as Klein was about to kill Clegg, she immediately pointed the MP5 submachine gun at Klein and threatened to kill him. Klein later revealed that it was their superior who ordered the mission and the one Waxman and Clegg carried out several years ago. Klein also revealed that he intended to trap them as scapegoats and kill them on this mission. because if the murderer is declared dead, the police will close the case. Hearing that, Clegg said he would fight to the last drop of blood to defend himself because he had done nothing wrong. Klein, whose guts immediately shrunk because Clegg was so eager to defend herself, then decided to retreat and strategize another day. Klein then headed for the elevator, which, without realizing it, had been bombed by Waxman last night. As the elevator started, the bomb finally exploded, destroying the elevator's path and killing Klein. Clegg, who thought that Waxman had died due to the falling ruins of the building, then decided to leave the building feeling sad. As Clegg walks away from the building, the top of a nearby fire hydrant is shot off. She looks up and sees Waxman throwing his sniper rifle from the building. Both of them smile and say goodbye before Clegg walks away. The moral we can learn from this film is never to expect a lasting romance if you are a hitman and fall in love with your co-worker. Because, as Sandra Bullock said in Speed 2, Cruise Control, relationships based on extreme circumstances never work out.